Welcome all. Hope you've all enjoyed your day so far and managed to see a lot of the talks. I hear there's a lot of good value coming out of other talks, as well as the solution specialist one where I am hosting. If you've missed any, there are recordings available. And now to introduce our next talk, it's all about agility and growth. And who better to present this than Brian Mapley from Adyen, who is the head of mid-market UK sales, and Maša, Prastalo, who's the channel partnership manager at Adyen. Welcome to you both, and thank you for being part of Meet Magento. Looking forward to your talk.
Hi, Yannick.
Really, how are you?
Really good to be here. Yeah,
Great.
Really looking forward to this.
At home, cozy, so great.
Been a long time.
Hi, Yannick. Thank you so much for having us be part of such a great event, and the amount of money that's been raised is just amazing. So thank you for putting it all together.
Yeah, no,
awesome work.
Yeah.
Good. I'll let you guys kick off, and if anyone has any questions, please use the chat on the side, and we'll do our best to answer those at the end of our talk. Good.
So
over to you.
Thank you. So thanks everybody that's joined us today. It's really kind of interesting to see how events are evolving and it all being very virtual. So I've been put in charge of moving the slides over. So with that, it's definitely all on me, but hopefully you'll have some really good takeaways from this session. So let's get cracking. So as Yannick said, my name's Maša Prastalo, and I look after channel partnerships for Adyen. I look after the north of the UK and also have a specialism in Magento across the UK. And joining me is the very lovely Brian Mapley.
Yeah, so I'm Brian. So on this very day, 7 years ago, I joined Adyen and was tasked with heading up mid-market, which we did really successfully, and then across Europe. And now we have a team of 7 sales guys in the UK, just in mid-market, which I head up. And we've been really successful at it.
I think I remember those days, Brian. Shows how long we've been in the industry for.
It does, but those 7 years have just gone like that.
Yes, great.
Payments royalty, I like to call him. So in this session, what we wanted to do is kind of taking into account everything that's been happening over the past few months, and kind of as Adyen, we've got a very wide portfolio of merchants in lots of different verticals and ways of selling. So we've seen some really good successes and unfortunately some casualties and some failures. And one thing that we kind of identified across the board is that an agile mindset really is key. And it was kind of the whole situation over the last few months that has really shown how important it is to be agile and to kind of keep moving and pivot and adapt. So, Brian, we've got some brilliant examples of merchants that were able to do that as well.
So it's incredible how merchants have adapted, especially during these difficult months. You've got the likes of pizzerias offering baked goods. You've got people like John Lewis offering styling advice through virtual calls like these Zoom calls. You've got Brompton again offering personal video shopping, which has been really cool. You've got kind of Brewdog, which have completely changed their business model and offering hand wash. JCB making ventilators. I mean, who knew that could possibly happen? So again, it's really interesting how retailers have changed, and a good one is Fortnum and Mason, because again, even though their stores closed, and so you'd think their POS traffic would completely drop, which it did, but their e-com traffic went through the roof. But it wasn't a churn of existing customers; it was actually brand new customers through their e-com channel, which is kind of outstanding, really.
Yeah, and one thing that we also saw was it wasn't just a case of pivoting in the moment and kind of being able to change tack. They had infrastructures already there that allowed them to be able to do that. They had the agility mindset already, and they were already on a road through working with the right tech partners, through working with the right PSP or whoever gave them the tools and the kind of foundations already there in order to make those shifts. And I think
Mhm.
that's one thing that we've definitely learned. If you haven't started on that road yet, then perhaps it's time to do that. So
Yeah, and if they're on that omni-channel path, then it's your job is virtually already done, because you're not having to add additional channels at that time. So again, like you mentioned, you're already on that journey. So it becomes when you need to adapt and need to become agile, and you probably work on that growth mindset or that agile mindset, and that's when it becomes key.
yeah. Every time I'm going to have to change a slide, I'm going to be really anxious. It's the bit that I'm scared about. So managed to do it a second time. Cool. Let's keep going. So when we think about it from a payments point of view, and actually what does the role of payments mean in your business, and how can payments actually facilitate the ability to be agile, and how actually having a really good payment strategy can actually impact your business kind of across the board. And we kind of, when we were discussing in what we could talk about today, we thought about, well, what do merchants expect from their payments provider? Traditionally it's been legacy systems that kind of only really served one function, and that was to process a payment. But actually, with the payments landscape changing so much and the consumer becoming increasingly demanding about how they want to pay, what payment method they want to use, there needs to be a shift in that kind of thinking of payments just as a commodity, and actually how you can use payments to be a lot more strategic.
Yeah, and again, like you mentioned, it's all about what do you need from your payment provider, and what channels or what innovations are they doing that can help you get there. Some examples are, when we take a taxi or an Uber in, whatever country or major city we're in, we want that ability that when we've been there and we've registered our payment details through the app, when we get our end of our journey, that the payment is already taken care of. When we go to theme parks, for instance, somewhere like Legoland, for example, rather than carrying wallets, we want to have wearable tech, and you get touch and go throughout the visit, whether actually buying burgers, merchandise, or on those new rides. So you're always, again, you're not having to carry your wallet around. One of my favorites is, if I'm going to watch football, going to the Spurs or whatever, and I just take my membership card, and that becomes my payment channel, and I can buy drinks, scarves, programs. I can even get a notification if Harry Kane's bag's a last minute winner, and I can use that URL to purchase that shirt. And we all love to play games on our phones as well. So again, there's a great opportunity there. Again, can your provider provide you with that ability to do that in-app or that in-game purchase with just one click? One that's really relevant while we've been at home is streaming services. So again, listening to your favorite tunes on Spotify, or downloading your favorite movies or your TV shows. And again, how is that monthly subscription taken care of? Is your payment provider or is your payment provider able to do that for you in a seamless way without having to see lack of conversions?
Yeah, and one thing that we as Adyen have always been really strong in the enterprise space, and it is kind of an enterprise mindset. Whereas I think what we really want to focus on is how all of this can be translated into the mid-market, and how the mid-market can drive their growth strategy and everything through utilizing payments. Because I think up until maybe Klarna with the buy now pay later payment option, that was kind of the first significant thing that happened differently at checkout to the traditional press, process payment and go. And that's only increasing now with people wanting to pay with Google Pay and Apple Pay, and cash slowly becoming obsolete. So really do have a kind of genuine think about at what point you need to start thinking about payments as a strategic tool.
And I think over the last few months, it's proved that, the cash now is probably accelerating away. So, we're seeing the death of cash even more. So, and now smartphones are our research engine, our purchase vehicles. So again, you've got to be able to adapt to that ability where can you take payments on the go, through the app, through smartphones. And I think that's how your mindset needs to change.
Time to get that big sock of cash that I've got under the bed. To the bank, I think. So to share with you, a really good example of payments as more than a commodity.
Yeah, and someone who's done that really well is Crocs over the last couple of months. So we what we've done with Crocs is that they wanted to really help, say, NHS workers. So we provide them with a pay by link solution. So when you did buy a pair of Crocs, you've got this pop up for the like a hosted checkout, which means that then on your behalf, then you can add another additional pair of Crocs, and those Crocs go, you purchase them on behalf of a healthcare worker, which has been pretty cool. So it's a donation box on the checkout page, allowing the shopper to contribute by sending one or several more pairs of shoes, which again, from a merchant thinking up of an idea of how they can push back and help back into the community, I think it's been a fantastic idea.
So creating a unified commerce ecosystem. So whether you call it multi-channel or omni-channel, the same kind of principle is key, and that's being able to provide customers with a unified experience. So whether that be across point of sale and e-commerce, or whether that simply be across, websites and apps. A channel is simply a way of a customer interacting with your brand. So it's really that seamless experience that's regardless of the method that they're engaging with you. So whether it's offline or online or across kind of multi-devices. So as we all know, customers are increasingly demanding. It's becoming more and more difficult to keep customers and keep them engaged and keep them coming back, because chances are it's not just about product anymore. You can 9 times out of 10 maybe find the same thing somewhere else. So how do they keep coming back to you? And that's part of that, is providing them with that seamless, frictionless experience of you as a brand. So highly personalized experiences, the content that you're sharing with them, they want recommendations based on things that they've previously shown interest in. So it's a constant way of actually seeing your business from a bird's eye point of view, but from the point of view of the customer. So we've kind of, again, through the experience that we have working with merchants, we've kind of managed to simplify it into 3 things, although we do know that it's a lot wider and deeper than that, but we only have half an hour, so we can't oh, there we go, we're still there. So I've got some stats, because I always think it's really important to have stats. So amazing experiences, 86% of people are willing to pay more if they have an amazing customer experience, which I think is an incredible stat. So actually, what are you doing to make sure that you're getting the maximum spend out of those customers? 49% will do an impulse buy if it's been pushed through like a personalized route. So say, for example, I like to buy baggy t-shirts ever since I've been I'm not going to lie. So if I get offered a baggy t-shirt in a different color, I'm more likely to buy it, and I'll go, they know me so well and I feel loved. So that's really important. So another thing in terms of experiences from our point of view is obviously the payments journey, and optimizing your payments to make it as easy as possible for the customer to make the purchase. You don't want to be declined at checkout. You don't want to have to enter your card details every single time, and kind of think how you behave as a consumer. I know I do. If I've got my card details saved, I'll be way more likely to make a purchase because it's easy to do so, and I'll go back and do it again because it's quick. So have a think about that. And it's really important that you are choosing the right tech partners. So whether it be from a personalization point of view or a loyalty point of view, you are able to kind of get those same experiences that we used to perhaps have in store. And if you do have a store, does your e-commerce speak to your point of sale? Am I able to buy something online or go and return it in store? I had an experience, obviously before COVID happened, where I bought something online. I then went to take it back because it wasn't right. And, woman's prerogative and all that, I can change my mind like that. And they said, oh no, you have to refund this and buy something. And straight away I was like, this doesn't feel fun. Like this is a pain, which I know is very entitled, but unfortunately as a shopper we are these days. So all of these things seem quite simple, but actually how many merchants are doing it well? And then from unifying the organization, one of the biggest things that we always come across is a very disjointed structure within a merchant's kind of organization, whether it be internal structures or priorities or operations. And actually the brands that do really well are the ones that center around the customer and don't work in silos. So businesses that have been able to pivot really quickly, listen to the market and follow the customer and go where the customer takes them, rather than being, you know, this is our priority and this is our priority. So one of the examples is offline not speaking to online, and then actually they become two competing businesses. But actually, what value is that bringing to the customer? None. The customer doesn't care. They want to experience your brand as a whole. And then how shoppers shape your brand. So it's no longer enough to just have a really good product. It doesn't mean you're going to be the best in the market. It's every single market is really, really competitive. So if you build your brand around your customer and enhancing that customer's experience, then actually you're going to evolve, you're going to adapt, you're going to be a lot more agile. So behaviors are definitely changing, and it's the customers that we need to be listening to.
Cool. Yeah, so kind of, yeah, moving on to kind of new markets and understanding local payment methods. And I think a lot of companies will go, oh, I want to go international. You know, I need some local entities and stuff like that, which is fine. But you've got to then understand and the importance of accepting the local payment method in that particular country, because not every country is as card centric as the UK. So there's going to be some weird and wonderful payment methods out there that you kind of need to kind of get your head around. And I think someone like, when you think of who's done that really well, someone like Daniel Wellington has proved that they can do global expansion, if possible, just by offering those key payment methods in that particular country and those key currencies. Because what you don't want to do, I know there's a waft of with payment methods out there, and there might be over 250 globally. But what you don't want to do is clog up your checkout with all of those payment methods. You want it done on a local level. So wherever you're sitting in the world, just those local payment methods come up means that you're going to start those conversions and see those conversions going through the roof, which is really cool. So I just want to touch on a couple of payment methods that we've seen that kind of grow really well. So the first one is WeChat Pay. So WeChat Pay is a really popular Chinese payment method. So it's an instant through the instant message app, and it has 1 billion users monthly, which is incredible. So the app does absolutely everything on WeChat, and it's also does your online shopping, and it becomes your digital payments through the app, through your e-wallet. And has over 600 million users, which is just an incredible stat when you think about. So if you're going into China, if you don't offer WeChat Pay, just think about how many shoppers that you're potentially going to lose if you're not offering that local payment method. And the same is exactly the same in Holland, right? So if you want to take payments in Holland and all you've got is cards, then you're going to lose so much traffic, because again, the most popular one by a country mile is what's called Ideal. So Ideal is used by 75% of all payments are done by Ideal in the Netherlands. And again, by not offering Ideal can cost you a lot of money. And Ideal is just is an online banking method covered by most of those major banks in the Netherlands. And a really abstract one is Boleto in Brazil, and it's really interesting about how different countries and local people want to pay in their local payment methods of what they're really happy with. So with Boleto, you go online and you find the goods that you want to pay for, and you select pay in your checkout. A voucher is generated, which is then printed, and then you take that to your bank or your ATM or your local 7-Eleven, and you just pay for it there, and then the goods are shipped. So again, you've got to understand the different regions, and you've got to understand those local payment methods that are going to get you into the right countries and increase those conversions. And some good examples of that, Marsha, if you want to move on to the next slide, is a couple of good examples is Brompton Bikes. So Brompton Bikes have a really great website, and and they've got followers in 45 different countries, across Europe, US, and Asia. And what we did then, we helped them to go into China with WeChat Pay, China UnionPay, and UnionPay, and again that helped increase their conversions. And the same with Cambridge Satchel Company. So Cambridge Satchel Company is one of those lovely iconic British brands that wanted to go international. Again, they sell in over 100 different currencies, and by offering the right payment methods with the right currencies in the right countries, we was able to see an uplift of 15% in auth rates and conversions by 5%. So again, it just shows you the power of local payment methods.
And also the power of your PSP being able to take you there. I've spoken to merchants where they've put all of this time, money and effort to launch into a region, and actually they don't understand why they failed. And the reason that they failed is because they haven't been offering the payment method that country is accustomed to. So if a customer sees that you offer the payment method that they're comfortable with using, automatically it will build trust in your brand. And actually we've seen that if you are using the local payment methods, then their ATVs will tend to be higher as well. So it's about, again, I'll keep saying it, having the right partners to be able to take you, and be the experts in what perhaps you aren't an expert in.
And those payment methods change over time. So you might see that for certain months that the certain payment method is more relevant than another one. So you might want to drop one out of your checkout and bring another one on, and kind of A/B test that, and then bring another one back in as and when you feel it's correct.
Yeah. And, it's by no means just now a kind of a geographical cross-country thing. Now you've got world payment methods that are coming through very strong: Google Pay, Apple Pay, Amazon Pay, and people are going to increasingly want to use those in domestic markets as well. So if you're still mainly focused on card, you need to just shift really, really quickly. So you can't buy loyalty. So this is something we kind of wanted to wrap up with, something that we're very passionate about at Adyen, and actually how loyalty is not just about deals and offers and rewards, but actually rewarding your returning customers with a better payments experience. So tokenization allows for frictionless checkout for the shopper. So to kind of explain it to you, it's actually quite a simple concept. It's basically taking sensitive data and replacing it with non-sensitive data. So the sensitive data is the PAN, which is the long card number. And what tokenization does is it actually replaces that long card number with a series of gobbledygook numbers that don't actually kind of make any sense or are actually worthless in themselves. But that creates a token, and then it's that token that's transmitted through the payment chain rather than the sensitive card data. So from a fraudster point of view, if a fraudster was to get a hold of that, there's not much that they can do with it. So the change is done in real time. It's done per transaction. It's done per merchant. And the token allows for the customer then to be able to store their payment details. They're able to then use those payment details again, whether it be on your website or on your app. And it basically creates that one-click experience, which is the kind of enviable feature of, Uber, for example. So the benefit also extends past the point of the customer. So from a merchant's point of view, it's a lot cheaper because you're not having to have all of the hassles of managing the PCI compliance and the costs that are related to that, because actually the data that you're processing is technically not sensitive, also from a fraud point of view as well, that there's less likely that there will be a risk of fraudsters kind of taking that card and having their way with it. So it's becoming the norm. It's becoming increasingly important to have that really frictionless checkout, as we said. And one thing that is absolutely key that we would like you to take away from this talk is that you need to get on the road of mindset of agility. You need to be on that path of actually, who am I working with? Who are my tech partners? What are they doing for me? What could they be doing for me? What should they be doing for me? And actually allow them to give you the, I don't know, I'm thinking of it as like a cog, you know, to give you all the kind of things that you need in order to be able to turn in whichever direction you need to go. And for us, that's been the biggest lesson that we've learned over the past few months, is the merchants that are doing well are the ones that are able to be agile.
Good.
Yeah, so that's our little summary. And I think that's it. Any questions?
I loved your explanation on tokenization. It simplified it so much. I'll invite you next time, Maša, to speak to merchants to talk about that. We've seen a growing uptake of that a couple of years ago, especially where you have things like click and collect and multiple touch points in that customer experience. And it's been, you know, it's helped us make that user journey so much more frictionless, if that's the word we want to use. So yeah, no, it's really great. Also, so much happening in the payment space. It's always
incredible.
It is. It seems it's always improving and growing, progressing, especially, you know, during this time. I think it's really assisting a lot of merchants in multiple ways, which is really good. I have a few questions that we've got come through directly to me. So there's one that says, you know, how's Adyen found it as a business? You know, have you started seeing a big uptake in your payments that you've been transacting with over this period?
Yeah, so really, really interesting question, because again, you would you might think so certain people were thinking that we'd see a downturn in payments, but if anything, it's been the opposite direction, because again, as I kind of touched on earlier in the presentation, is that a lot of our merchants who have, especially omni-channel, where they traditionally took a lot of payments through point of sale, obviously those stores closed overnight, so they couldn't take payments. So they had to be agile and they had to change. So whether they already had the website so they could start taking payments, or if they already took payments through the website, or they needed suddenly to be able to take payments online, and we could then use what we call the pay by link, which is again hosted page, so they can just start virtually overnight taking payments online. We've seen that those merchants have probably done better than they probably have done before with e-commerce transactions, because again, suddenly people are then being pushed out of store onto online transactions. But not only that, it's not existing business. It's new customers coming to them for the first time and starting transacting with them, which has been a real key change for them.
Yeah, no, that's great. You know, one thing that I've probably noticed even with ourselves, and I think Maša, you touched on it, you know, when it comes to refunds, you know, obviously we're seeing a lot more people purchasing online without that in-store experience. How are you finding some of the merchants handling things like refunds? Because it's such a big part in our user journey that seems to be at the back of the journey, but you know, it filters into our whole experience as a company, as a user, as well as a merchant. So anything on refunds that could help our audience?
Good to hear you.
Oh, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, sorry, just cut out. Sorry, was it refunds?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, so from our point of view, I suppose it's a lot easier because Adyen is a single platform. So for us, there is no kind of division between, you know, point of sale and e-commerce. So I suppose we're a little bit biased in that way. I don't know, Brian, what would be the best way to?
Yeah, because again, seamless experience, we can just refund on that exactly the same transaction. So again, it's again, the merchant can easily find that transaction in our one back office, because we are the one true one platform. So the gateways, we are the gateway, we are the acquirer. So there's no integration required regarding in that point of view. So Adyen does the whole payment flow and the whole payment journey. So we have all of that lovely rich data that we can pass through to our merchants, which means they can easily find that transaction in the back office to complete that refund within seconds. They're not having to log into multiple different parts of the process to try and work out who refunds it and where.
Yeah. Okay.
Kind of, it's the I suppose that the kind of back end of the legacy systems, and what we were saying in the beginning about what is your PSP doing for you and what could they be doing for you, and it's kind of, there's been such a dominance of the legacy systems over the years that I don't think a lot of merchants even know it's broken, you know, and actually that there is a different way. And no, it doesn't have to be practically two separate businesses that actually end up competing with each other and cannibalizing each other's business. And
Sure.
it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, for us, it's an easier story.
It's seamless. Yeah, no, excellent. I think another one is around, you know, being a Magento event. What's on the roadmap for the Magento plugin going, you know, into the future?
Yeah, that's a really cool question. And we do have our Magento plugin, and we are adapting that plugin all of the time. And I think one of the really cool functionality that we can see is definitely coming up is that ability to for Apple Pay per product. So rather than going pushing through to the checkout, it will then, you can have that payment button in each individual product, so you can just click and then it's paid without being pushing it through to the checkout. So again, that's quite an advancement for our plugin, which we're really pleased to launch.
Excellent. And do you know when that's going to be available?
I think, I imagine probably, because what we do, I just wanted to tag on the end of that, because we build the plugin ourselves. We actually underwent recently a survey of all our Magento partners in terms of what actually needed to be added to the plugin, what they're not happy with, what they are happy with. Thankfully, overall, it was positive, but Apple Pay was flagged up as something that actually, you know, we need to add into our plugin, and we listen and we work with our partners to make sure that we get the best result. So I think they said something around 6 months or something at most, but we're always kind of trying to shift deadlines. So it's definitely a priority for us, but I would be lying if I gave you an exact date. And I don't want to lie to you, Yannick. I think you're lovely.
Well, I think that's about time now. I just wanted to say thank you very much for you both. Thank you. If there's any further questions, I think you can directly message the speakers. Alternatively, I know both Brian and Maša are active on LinkedIn, so you know, and respond pretty fast. So get in touch with them. But yeah, thank you very much, guys. And
thank you.
Our next will be Vertex, and so please tune into them to see, you know, what businesses need to know about tax. And we'll see you then. Thanks very much. Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.